You can't be a chef. Women belong at home. Those words, spoken by a mother who believed only in tradition and gender roles, could have shattered Maria's dream before it even had the chance to bloom. But instead of bowing to the constraints of her upbringing, she transformed the sting of rejection into fuel. 6 months after being told she'd never amount to anything in the kitchen, Maria stood in the doorway of her very own restaurant, a symbol of resilience, defiance, and an unwavering belief that a woman's place is wherever she chooses to be. Hey everyone, welcome back to Ever After Stories. Today, I have a heartfelt story to share with you. Get ready to feel all the emotions. Maria's journey began long before she ever stepped into the kitchen of her restaurant. It started in the small, modest home where she grew up, surrounded by the smells of hearty meals and the sound of family chatter. From a young age, Maria found herself drawn to the art of cooking. She would watch her grandmother prepare dishes with a sense of grace and expertise, admiring the way food brought people together. It was in those moments that Maria's dream began to take shape. But in her house, dreams like hers were often dismissed. You can't be a chef. Women belong at home. Her mother's words echoed in Maria's mind daily. To her, the kitchen was a place for nurturing the family, not for women to pursue professional careers. Why don't you want to learn to cook for your future husband and children like other girls? Her mother would ask, as if questioning her very identity. Maria, though, wasn't like the other girls. Her heart beat to a different rhythm, one that was drawn to the chopping of knives, the sizzle of pans, and the magic of transforming raw ingredients into something beautiful. At just 14, Maria made her first bold attempt to follow her passion. She tried cooking dinner for the family, hoping to impress her mother and prove that her love for food could be more than just a fleeting hobby. Her mother, however, wasn't impressed. "This isn't something you should be doing," she said coldly as she continued to prepare her own meal. "Women don't belong in kitchens outside of their homes." Those words stung like acid, but they only hardened Maria's resolve. Every time she was told no, she dreamed bigger. Cooking, she believed, was her calling. It wasn't just about food, it was about expressing herself, about finding a place in the world that wasn't defined by outdated traditions. Years passed, and as Maria entered her teenage years, the tension with her mother only grew. Her dream of becoming a chef remained a secret she kept hidden from everyone, except her closest friends, who cheered her on. She enrolled in a local culinary program once she was old enough, determined to learn everything there was to know about the craft she loved. But the road ahead would not be easy. The conflict at home reached a boiling point when Maria, at the age of 18, finally told her parents she planned to attend culinary school. It was one of the hardest conversations she would ever have. "I want to be a chef," she said quietly, avoiding her mother's angry gaze. "I'm going to culinary school." Her mother's face twisted in disbelief. "What are you thinking? Women don't work in kitchens. They belong at home, taking care of the family." Her father, though silent, made it clear that he didn't approve either. But Maria was determined. She packed her bags, left her family home, and headed off to culinary school, knowing that the choice she was making would alter her life forever. Culinary school was where Maria truly began to understand the complexity of her dream. While she had always loved food and the idea of cooking, stepping into the world of professional kitchens was a completely different experience, one that was not kind to women who dared to break the mold. From day one, Maria felt the weight of the challenge ahead. The kitchen, a place where she had always felt a sense of comfort and joy, now felt like a battlefield. She was one of only a handful of women in a class full of male students, and that disparity wasn't lost on her. She was constantly aware that her every move was being scrutinized more than her male peers. The male students often joked about how women had no place in a real kitchen, how they weren't cut out for the long hours and intense pressure that came with the profession. One classmate, a particularly brash young man named Jason, remarked, "You're wasting your time. Women don't belong in kitchens that serve the public. They belong at home making meals for their families." These comments stung deeply, but they also ignited something inside Maria, a fierce determination to prove him and everyone else who doubted her wrong. She knew that getting through this was going to take more than just skill. It was going to require an ironclad will and the ability to weather constant challenges. Culinary school was demanding. Every day was filled with long hours, harsh critiques from instructors, and moments of self-doubt. On more than one occasion, Maria found herself questioning whether it was all worth it. There were times when the weight of societal expectations, the disapproving words from home, and the persistent comments from classmates made her feel like giving up. But Maria didn't give up. Not this time. She couldn't. Despite the discouraging atmosphere, she poured herself into her work. Every cut, every sauce, every dish became an opportunity to prove her worth. While the others would gossip and joke, Maria focused on perfecting her skills. She learned from her mistakes, taking them in stride, and pushed herself to improve. Her passion for cooking became her shield. It was what got her through the grueling shifts in the kitchen and the countless hours of prep. And over time, it began to show. Slowly, she earned the respect of her instructors and peers. They saw that she wasn't just some naive girl trying to play in a man's world. She was a force to be reckoned with. Her skills were undeniable, and her resolve was unwavering. She was here to stay. Still, the road was far from smooth. Even as she gained respect within the school, the industry outside was even more unforgiving. Maria graduated from culinary school at the top of her class, but instead of feeling victorious, she felt overwhelmed. The idea of entering the professional culinary world, a place known for its grueling hours, its often toxic work environment, and the scarcity of women in high-level positions, filled her with anxiety. But she couldn't turn back now. She had made it this far. And besides, there was no other choice. This was what she wanted to do. Maria's first job in a restaurant kitchen was, in many ways, the ultimate test. She had applied to multiple places, hoping for an opportunity to showcase her talents, but each rejection served to highlight the reality of being a woman in a male-dominated industry. At one point, she even began to wonder if she was destined to remain on the sidelines, a talented cook whose potential would never be realized because of her gender. However, just when she was about to lose hope, Maria was offered a position as a line cook at a well-known local restaurant. It wasn't glamorous, but it was a start. The first few months were grueling. The hours were long, the work was relentless, and the kitchen environment was tougher than she could have imagined. The head chef, a seasoned professional who had worked in some of the finest kitchens in the world, was critical and demanding. She expected nothing less than perfection from every member of her team, and Maria was no exception. At first, the other cooks didn't take her seriously. She was the only woman on the line, and they made sure she knew it. "What's a girl doing in the kitchen?" one of the older cooks would mutter under his breath. They gave her the dirtiest tasks, peeling vegetables, cleaning the grill, but Maria didn't mind. It was part of the process. Despite the initial hardships, Maria kept her head down and worked harder than ever. She spent hours in the kitchen, learning from the experienced chefs, absorbing everything she could. She knew that this was her chance to prove herself, not just to the others, but to herself as well. And slowly, the tide began to turn. Her precision with knives, her ability to create dishes that were both flavorful and aesthetically pleasing, and her unrelenting work ethic began to make an impression. The other cooks started to respect her, and the head chef began to take notice of her potential. Maria had broken through the first barrier. She had proven that she could survive in a professional kitchen, despite the odds stacked against her. But even though she had gained some recognition in the industry, the next step, taking the leap to running her own kitchen, was something entirely different. After several years of working in various kitchens, Maria had reached a point where she knew she was ready for more. She had honed her skills, proven herself in the heat of professional kitchens, and gained the respect of her peers. But despite all of that, something was missing. Her dream, her true dream, was not to work under someone else, but to create the place of her own, a restaurant where she could not only showcase her culinary talents but also rewrite the narrative of what women in the culinary world could achieve. The idea had been brewing in Maria's mind for years, but it wasn't until she had built enough experience, confidence, and a few connections in the industry that she felt ready to take the plunge. Opening her own restaurant seemed like the biggest risk she could take, but it also felt like the most rewarding. The decision wasn't made lightly. Maria knew the immense challenges she would face, not just because she was a woman in a traditionally male-dominated industry, but because the restaurant business itself was notoriously difficult to navigate. Many restaurants failed within the first year, and the financial burden of starting a business could be overwhelming. But Maria wasn't intimidated by the statistics. She had fought too long and too hard to let fear hold her back now. She started small. Maria began by seeking out investors who believed in her vision, a restaurant that would offer not only great food but also a warm, welcoming atmosphere that reflected her roots and her journey. The road to securing financial backing was not easy. Maria had to pitch her idea multiple times to various investors, many of whom doubted the viability of a woman-run kitchen. "It's too risky," one investor told her. "Are you sure you're ready for this?" Another questioned her leadership abilities, suggesting that she start by working in a smaller, less ambitious kitchen. But Maria didn't waver. She believed in her vision, and that belief was what kept her going. After months of planning, negotiating, and overcoming countless obstacles, Maria finally found a group of investors who shared her vision and were willing to back her. She signed the lease on a small, charming space in a bustling part of town, and construction on her restaurant began. The process of setting up the restaurant was both exciting and exhausting. Maria worked tirelessly, overseeing every detail, from designing the interior to curating the menu, and even selecting the right team of chefs and staff who shared her passion for food and her commitment to excellence. She wanted her restaurant to reflect who she was, a blend of tradition and innovation, with a focus on fresh, high-quality ingredients. As the opening day neared, Maria couldn't help but feel a mix of excitement and anxiety. She had dreamed of this moment for so long, and now that it was finally here, she couldn't help but wonder, would people accept her? Would they believe in her vision? Would they trust a woman to lead a kitchen and run a restaurant? But as the doors opened on the first night, Maria knew there was no turning back. The restaurant was small but warm, with a rustic feel that reflected her upbringing. The open kitchen allowed diners to watch the magic happen, and the menu was a celebration of flavors, drawing inspiration from both her heritage and her experiences working in professional kitchens. The first few days were a blur. There were hiccups, of course. The staff was still getting used to the rhythm of the kitchen, and there were a few mistakes here and there. But the food was exceptional. The dishes Maria created were a hit, and word quickly spread about the new restaurant run by a woman who had defied the odds. Customers came, some out of curiosity, others because they had heard about Maria's story and wanted to support her. They were amazed by the quality of the food and the attention to detail. Maria's dream was no longer just a dream. It was a reality. However, success didn't come overnight. The challenges didn't end once the restaurant opened its doors. Maria faced the constant pressure of running a business, managing finances, dealing with suppliers, and handling the expectations of customers. On top of that, she continued to face the skepticism of those who didn't believe women belonged in such high-pressure, demanding roles. But with every challenge Maria faced, she grew stronger. She had weathered the doubts, the skepticism, and the hardships that came with being a woman in a male-dominated industry, and now she was determined to prove that she could succeed on her own terms. Maria's restaurant began to gain a steady following, and it didn't take long for it to become a local favorite. The food was innovative yet comforting, combining traditional techniques with bold new flavors. Maria's leadership in the kitchen became evident, and the staff respected her not only for her skills but also for the way she treated them. She had created a workplace that valued respect, collaboration, and creativity, qualities that were often missing in the cutthroat world of professional kitchens. As the months passed, Maria's restaurant gained recognition from food critics and local influencers. Reviews praised not only the food but also the atmosphere she had created. It was a place where people felt welcome, where the joy of food was celebrated, and where the story of a woman who defied the odds was told through every dish that left the kitchen. Yet, despite the success, Maria never forgot the journey it had taken to get here. She remained grounded, always remembering the obstacles she had faced and the people who had doubted her. But for every doubter, there were hundreds of supporters, customers, fellow chefs, and women who looked to her as an inspiration. She had proven that women belonged in the kitchen, not just at home, but as leaders, innovators, and chefs in their own right. Maria's restaurant became more than just a place to eat. It became a symbol of empowerment. It was a testament to the idea that no dream was too big, no barrier too strong, if you were willing to fight for it. 6 months after being told she couldn't be a chef, Maria stood in the kitchen of her own restaurant, surrounded by the delicious aromas of her creations, the hum of her hard-working staff, and the buzz of happy customers. She had done it. Against all odds, she had built a legacy that would inspire future generations of women to follow their own dreams, no matter the obstacles they faced. Maria's story was more than just a tale of a woman becoming a chef. It was a reminder that we are all capable of achieving greatness, even when the world tells us we can't.